What's up, everybody? Wes, Dead Air Knipe here with always
Typical Lydia.
Today's show, we're going to be doing the 2016 slasher modern day classic Terrifier. Beep, beep.
Oh, it was the horn. I was hoping that was the sound that you were going to use on the Blu-ray when you go into the special menus and such. It is the little horn honking sound, and my dog doesn't like it.
Yes, I have the same Blu-ray as you do, I suspect, because it's delightful when you press play. You get the little horn honking. Let me tell you something about myself, Lydia, and I'm going to tell this to the audience, and I'm not proud of it. I sat there on the couch today getting ready to watch Terrifier. This is our Halloween special, by the way. I was getting ready to watch Terrifier, and I looked all the way over to my goddamn bookshelf full of movies, and I'm like, it's so far. There has to be a better way. And so I was Googling where this is streaming, and it was on Tubi. I was like, I don't want to watch it with commercials. And then they say, well, it's available on these other streaming services, which I don't have. But then they're like, you could just rent it. And so I am not joking. I was literally about to rent it. And then I was like, get off your ass and go put in the Blu-ray, which I did. I'm happy to report, but I almost didn't. That's how lazy I was feeling.
I beat myself up a little bit similarly going to watch a film when Chris wasn't here. And it's not like Chris is a gopher to, we watch movies together often, and he is on top of it. And he knows the stack of films better than I do, so he usually knows where it is. I have to alphabetically think about where the movies are and find them on the shelf. But often he has them queued up because we know what we're going to watch. But with him not here, I was almost like, is it on Shudder? Not this movie, but another movie. And I kicked myself in the ass pretty hard. So it's crazy. I don't know if it's the full moon that we experienced, the chill in the air, or just the Halloweeny. Maybe did you eat too many fun-sized chocolate bars, Wes? And you're sleepy on the couch? Because I know I did. And I almost watched a streaming version of something we own in pristine Blu-ray, crisp, beautiful version on the shelf. How dare you? How dare you, Wes?
You know, it's funny that you talk about the quality because, my God, there's no comparison. Streaming has really ruined our brains, and I'm usually not a resolution guy. I as long as I can see what the screen looks like, I'm fucking fine. I'll watch it on VHS. I don't care. But I mean, I was watching this film, and even though there's a very low budget attached to this movie, and a lot of people were working on this stuff for the first time, there's some scenes in this film that are so gorgeous, and I know that the streaming versions just don't look like this because it's so compressed. And I hate to sound like one of those fucking douchebag physical media collectors that are like, the quality, because I'm not that guy, but I have to admit the quality is pretty breathtaking on this Blu-ray.
It truly is. I've never been more pleased with a Blu-ray, honestly. Chris picked this up. He's got the other ones too and found them for a good price, because I know that sometimes these things can be pretty expensive in Steelbook or the Blu-ray. We don't have the arts pack of the 3 films, I don't think. And a lot of collectors do upgrade all the time or buy all the versions, and we simply don't do that. But we have excellent versions available of this film, which is great. I've seen some reviews where people sort of get hung up on the art house or grindhouse quality of some scenes, that there is some filter evident in some scenes, and it is softened and the palette is muted and it's very dark. It's a very dark film. But I think it all works, of course. It all works for us as horror fans. It all works for us coming to this film for that. And it does look gorgeous. I wouldn't want to watch it on Shudder specifically. And I love Shudder in many ways for many reasons. And the price is one of them. They're fairly inexpensive. And the selection is another, even though we have complained that we don't get it's pretty slim pickings each month. But the quality, I don't think they've broken out of 720p.
I don't think so either, to be 100% honest with you. And it would be a shame. Yes, this movie is very dark, but art just pops. He's pop art. It's the white and the and the blood, and that's the one thing that I focused on, right? It's that stark white that is put against all of this grime and dirt and mush and squelching liquids. Squelching is a sound effect that you get a lot. I was watching this with the subtitles on, and just lots of squelching.
Really?
Yeah.
I would like to watch this with subtitles now that you mention it. I'm very curious as to how they describe things. And not, it's got a bit of a soundscape, especially when Art shushes or he winces in pain, where he doesn't make a sound, but there is an environmental sound that accompanies his mood. And I'd like to see how the subtitles handle that.
Yeah, weirdly, they don't. I can tell you specifically the shush, that's the steam vent going off, no sound effects. So unfortunately, you wouldn't know that watching the film, at least in that instant. I don't know if I was paying too close attention to a lot of the environmental sounds other than that one, because I remember you pointing that out to me a really long time ago. And now every time I watch this film, I think about it. This is a Lydia pick or a Wes pick? I can't remember who picked it. Joint pick?
I'd have to say it's a joint pick. Yeah, pretty much every film is brought to the table by one of us. And this one is just one I swore we'd already done it, kind of thing. Because we two talk about it often. And whether we talk about it, in context of another film or in comparison's sake, we talk about it off camera as well, right? Like we talk about this film. We talked about this film when it was coming out. We talk about this film when the sequels are coming out. So I feel like we've already talked about this film, but it's a perfect Halloween hit because we watch it now every year for Halloween. It really became ingrained with my enjoyment of horror film and Halloween together.
Let's take you all the way back, Lids, to the beautiful 1980s, where the slasher was king. And this era of horror is sometimes referred to the Reagan era of horror. And I wanted to bring this up because I'm fascinated by the cyclical nature of the types of films that get released. And there was the golden era of slashers, 1978 to 1984. And 84 is important because that's not really when the slasher started to taper off in financial and audience popularity, but it is included in the golden era of slashers because that's the same year that A Nightmare on Elm Street came up. And that is important because it affected a lot of what slashers were going to do for a long time. There are lots of Krugerification of slashers. Now, the reason why the Reagan era of horror was something that I initially bumped up against when I first heard the term, I was like, what the fuck is anybody talking about? I rejected the notion. The idea of this era of horror is obviously a very conservative president was in power and almost universally voted for, at least if you look at all the red that was on those fucking voting maps back in the United States. And it tended to penetrate the culture. Things got a little bit lighter, a little bit more conservative, and horror kind of became a little bit more of simple morality tales. This is also the boom of body horror. And the problem with knowing a lot about horror movies, and I'm sure you're thinking about this right now, dear listeners, and of course, Lydia, is, well, what you may say may be true, but I know way more horror movies than whoever the fuck coined that term. And what about this movie? What about that movie? What about this movie? And there's all kinds of examples about horror being flippant and lighter, more cartoonish in the 1980s, and that's what they're talking about. But then you're like, what about Hellraiser? What about The Entity? What about all these very serious horror movies that were coming out that are not as goony? But that's not the point, Lids. The point is the penetration. The penetration is what is important. And we're talking about slashers, and you know there's penetration in slashers. But it is the fact that Freddy Krueger enveloped the world like the fucking Blob. And to coincide with the capitalist nightmare of the 1980s, merchandising. And Art the Clown, boy, he looks good on a lunchbox and a t-shirt and a mug and an action figure. And holy fucking shit, did they market the fuck out of this goddamn clown.
They absolutely did. And he took the world by storm. Like, I was nothing but shocked, really, when I look back at it, that he became so popular. And it's not the yellow flower frame glasses that have sparked that shock. It was coworkers saying that they were watching it on Netflix, and specifically getting Netflix to watch Terrifier because so many people were talking about it, which is wild. I don't think there's anything quite like it. And giving credit where credit is due, I'd have to say there's nothing quite like the phenomena that was Terrifier when it hit Netflix, because everybody and their dog was watching it. And before that, having seen the trailer, being like, whoa, this is one I gotta watch. It was the same sort of feeling I got watching the trailer for In a Violent Nature. It's the same sort of feeling I got watching the trailer for Human Centipede, was, okay, I have to put a pin in this in the most devious sense of the word. This is going to be stapled to my heart until I watch this film. So I wanted to see Terrifier super bad. There was very few people talking about it. When it first hit Netflix, there were very few people talking about it. And that is, like many people, where I saw it first, because that was like the place to go. And I thought it was a little rough. It's not a film that I would recommend to people, because someone gets sawed in half. Like, spoiler alert, it was a little bit too scary, a little bit too art house, a little bit too grindy, a little bit too bloody, and a little bit too unforgiving, because the end throws you for a loop a little bit. It's right up there in my mind with Poughkeepsie Tapes in its relentlessness and its nihilism and its just general darkness. Is not something that I would recommend to a casual horror viewer, especially a family man who's saying, what should me and the wifey watch this Halloween, Lids? Not Terrifier. Now it's Terrifier. That's a number one recommendation. Probably for me and a lot of horror fans, when people are like just generally wanting to watch a horror movie for Halloween. I mean, Haunt is a good one, and Terrifier, and they're both extremely brutal. But that tolerance for brutality in horror film has shifted largely due to Terrifier. And I don't know, I'm not basing this on an academic stance. This is just from my observation as a horror fan.
And it's a damn good observation at that, because you're right on the nose as always. This film has a penetration where and by the way, I'm just going to put this on Front Street. I came to this movie incredibly late. I didn't actually watch Terrifier until Terrifier 2 was either coming out or had just come out. I think it was just coming out. And the first time I was encountering it was talking to you, and then I would see the memes all the time. So many memes, so many things online. Like, and I don't just mean like screen grabs with that moment when you're in a pizza shop, and it's not those types of memes. Sometimes I would see like the Scooby-Doo animated, like we've animated Art the Clown and Daphne's being strung up upside down, and all of these moments of the film were being captured in art and in screen grabs, and in all kinds of stuff, became super mimetic, and it was everywhere on social media constantly. And then I would have, much like you, casual people, Wes, this movie Terrifier, what do you think? Like, should I watch this? And I don't fucking know. I've never seen it. And so I remember hilariously finding it on YouTube of all places, because I don't know, by the time I was going to check it out, it wasn't on Netflix. And I remember watching it, and I didn't know that it was like all the violence was cut out. And so I remember watching it, and it's the first couple of kills, and they're cutting away. And I was thinking to myself, well, the general audience is a bunch of babies by and large. So I don't know what anybody's talking about. Now, obviously, by the time it got to the scene with Dawn, I knew something was wrong. And so I turned that version off, and I went to Tubi, and I saw it with commercials. And then eventually I would buy the Blu-ray. Now, you had mentioned how raw this film was, and I think that is something that I always I think about when I'm watching this. You and I have seen some pretty grindhousey ass shit. We've seen some pretty low budget stuff. This, in a lot of scenes, reminds me of fucking Headless, just in terms of how grainy and dark it is, because no one has any proper lighting, and they're shooting things fast because they don't have all the time in the world, and the special effects are king, but it gives the impression of watching something that you're not supposed to watch. And to a lot of people, this is the darkest thing they have ever seen and will ever watch. And this is not a fucking pissing contest. I'm not trying to say I've like mirror on the wall, who's the most hardcore of them all. That ain't it. But what I am saying is, for many people, this is a stark line in the sand. I know people who have turned this off, getting the wrong impression of where some of the horror was going to go, in particular with Dawn and stuff like that. Like, they see a naked woman upside down strung up, and they have some ideas about what Art the Clown might do, and that's it. They never watch the rest of the movie. There are people who have Art the Clown toys and stuff for their children, and they've never seen the fucking movie. It's just because it's all at Spirit Halloween, and their kid sees the clown. They have no idea what they have gotten into. Now, I would argue most people do. I mean, look at the box office of Terrifier 3.
Yes.
And so, but like, this goes back to my overall point with the Reagan era and comparing this to the Nightmare on Elm Street. Ultimately, horror fans like to buy things. And that's really what it comes down to. For fuck's sake, there's movies that have come that aren't even out yet, that those boutique horror t-shirt shops, you could buy a t-shirt. So when you go see the movie that you haven't seen yet, you're wearing the t-shirt. What if you don't watch it? What if you don't like it? Oh, fuck that. You already bought the t-shirt. I better like it. But who cares? Because I've got $40 with your fucking name on it, Fright Rags. It started with like Trick or Treat Studios, and it becomes Spirit Halloween, and now it's fucking Hot Topic and fucking Walmart. Like, you can, like, think about how violent this movie is. You can buy an Art the Clown toy at Walmart.
Oh, wow. I never really thought of it quite that deeply, because yes, you can. You can buy Art the Clown merch pretty much everywhere, and we're not immune to it. We have some Art the Clown merch here for sure. We have some of the Spirit Halloween Art the Clown merch. We have some of the merch from Cavity Colors, if not Fright Rags, the official merch by and large. And I'm sure every single stitch you buy at Spirit Halloween is official, but Damien Leone, as a filmmaker, had to get out in front of all of that when the first Terrifier was released, and it was such a hit. It was a huge hit. It was a cult classic instantly, and then it grew beyond that to become mainstream. And people started making the knockoff stuff inevitably, and he had to come out and be like, whoa, wait, make sure what you're buying is licensed from me, because I made this on a shoestring with friends, and I went begging for money. The producers are people I know. They're not highfalutin producers. This is a indie movie made with blood, sweat, and tears. So support us, not them, those people that are making money for themselves. And put out cease and desist orders, like you should. No one should. You see the memes of for artists, you don't get paid on exposure. And it's not just a meme. That's for real. That amount of exposure isn't going to pay the bills at the end of the day. Isn't going to get the second film done. And the second film was beginning to crowdfund as well. So it's not like he suddenly made a mint. Like he had to make sure he was making his dues. Now, sure, now he could have funded that film 20 times over. Me and Chris were talking about this morning when I was watching a few of the outtakes and special features. There's not a lot of special features on the discs that we have, but there's some, so it's worth watching. But thinking about like how he could fund this film probably 10 times over now with what he's made from all of the movies, three alone, because it just did so very, very well. Like back in the day, though, he really had to put his foot down, and I'm so glad he did, because I think he opened up the eyes of the people that like to spend money, the horror fans who want to buy all the merch, who are going to spend $40 at Fright Rags sight unseen, and they just want to consume the stuff. And rightfully so, because a lot of it's really cool. Like my Terrifier mug that I have right here in my hands is amazing. So like it is cool, and it's good to support the artist, but you have to make sure you know if you're actually supporting the artist or not. I think he made a lot of people think about that. He made me think about that, and I'm not really a merch buying person usually, but made you pay better attention to licensing.
Which is, who knows how much he's made and people have made off of just action figures and things like that. And so many of these young upstart actors that just get catapulted to the mainstream because they're in one of the biggest franchises in the world now. Everybody I thought was very amusing, climbing over themselves to win the I Saw It First Olympics. When I would see people, when a new Terrifier movie comes out and they are just, no one can go 5 minutes without saying, I saw All Hallows Eve first. I've been a fan of Art the Clown since the Ninth Circle. And I'm like, why are you all lying? It's okay to just, I admitted it. It's okay for you. I came to this late. I knew who Art the Clown was, but I didn't watch that movie until I still have not seen Terrifier 3. I will. I have a
Yes.
I will, but and it's not because I don't like it or I don't want to. It's just it takes place during Christmas, and it's not Christmas, and I can't watch a movie that takes place on Christmas outside of Christmas. It seems fucking weird to me, almost like a movie that takes place on Halloween. But fuck all this, because we've been talking for almost 30 minutes. What is this movie even about anyways, aside from Halloween?
It's definitely about Halloween, and it's definitely about Art the Clown. It's not about two cute girls getting ready for a little night out for Halloween, because that ends abruptly. It's not about the cat and mouse final girl, typical horror movie things. That does also end abruptly and get turned on its head more than once. It's not about the merchandise. It's not about the sunflower yellow glasses. It's not even about the little toy horn. It's about Art the Clown and what he embodies. He is like a new spirit of Halloween in a way, and I'm very excited to see where he goes, because I'm not gonna play the hipster card and be like, I've been a Art the Clown fan since the beginning. But I did watch All Hallows Eve, and that particular clown was stupefyingly brutal and corny, and everything I wanted in the ultimate scary clown. So yeah, this movie is about the ultimate scary clown and how he has become a new emblem for Halloween.
First of all, if you were to say that you liked this before anybody else, I would believe you. And the problem with the other people is not that is that I just don't believe them. I think they're liars. I think they're lying to me entirely when they say that they watched. Fine, you watched All Hallows Eve. All right, I get it. I could see how, like, I see that movie on streaming services all the time. The Ninth Circle. The Ninth Circle, you watched that? Really? I don't believe you. I'm calling you a liar. But also, I'm glad you mentioned cute girls. Holy fuck, are the girls in this movie cute? I'm so,
They really are.
I'm so obsessed, and it makes everything so much more tragic. This film will have its stock in trade, subverting your expectations around every corner. And Art the Clown really does embody silly little guy energy, which is, I think, is really popular with the internet. And I think that because this film goes so extreme in some areas of violence, but it leaves out other types of violence that can make people uncomfortable, anything goes. It's fine. You can have cannibalism. You can have dismemberment. You can have no cutting away, long language shots, people being very hard to kill, everything just so gushy. And people will still eat it up. And I think that it's unrepeatable, really, truly, and honestly, because again, this will be the last time I bring up A Nightmare on Elm Street, but how many Krueger slasher villains came after A Nightmare on Elm Street? Too many. And how many do you remember? 0. Have you noticed how many clown movies there are now?
Oh, and there always have been. I'm a clown movie chaser, and this is exactly why I watched All Hallows Eve, because it has a clown on the cover. And I'm a creepy clown chaser. And it's weird because I'm not a clown fan necessarily. If a clown comes puddling up to me on the street, it's just like, hey, buddy, I'll give him a thumbs up and carry on with my day. I don't get enraptured the way that some people, like our friend Amy, gets enraptured when she sees a dog on the street. She needs to ask if she could pet it because she's just a dog lover. I'm not a clown lover. I just really love the subversion of the clown. I like people who are afraid of clowns because I'm interested into why they're afraid of clowns, and I can't help myself but want to expose them a little bit further to clowns, clowndom, clown culture, if you will. One of my favorite films of all time is Shakes the Clown. It's not a horror movie, but it's spending time with clowns in a subversive way, in a way that the clowns aren't funny things for our entertainment. They have a real life, right? And that's I love films about clowns that are scary clowns or just weird clowns. I really liked Papa Corn, played by Bill Oberst Jr. in Circus of the Dead. I really like the creator of Jeepers Creepers, his first film, even though it's scary thinking about what he did to the actors that star in this. And this is very similar to a film we watched recently where you want to separate the art from the artist to a certain extent, but it's hard to go back and watch that Clown Town or whatever film it was. It's hard to go back and watch that, quite honestly, because of what he perpetrated against his younger victims. Actors slash victims in that film. But as far as clown horror, it's quite important. It wouldn't be bad for someone to remake that and sort of reclaim it a little bit, because I like it as far as clown horror goes. So, we have our Pennywise, we have all sorts of that. We had the scourge of people dressing up as a clown all over the internet, and it ended up like almost a worldwide phenomena of people being creepy clowns. And then we have the man who would allow you to hire him to be a creepy clown and stand outside someone's window. Like, Art the Clown was born in the midst of all of that, and he takes the cake. He so totally takes the cake. He is the creepy horror clown of my dreams.
A lot of that is this interesting combination right from the get-go of Art the Clown being a silent killer, but because of his body motions, David Howard Thornton's physical performance of this character, he becomes somehow a silent, wisecracking, silly little guy who is going to have a bit of a rampage tonight, but not before we subvert expectations a little bit more and we start the movie off in a situation that we don't really understand what we're looking at. It's an interview show while somebody is getting ready, prepared, we shall say, putting on their makeup. This is indeed Art the Clown getting ready. But what is he watching? He is watching Monica Brown, and they are conducting an interview with just a dramatically disfigured woman who is talking about the Miles County massacre that they are the lone survivor of.
And I think this is where I make that parallel between this and Poughkeepsie Tapes, because that's the conceit of Poughkeepsie Tapes. It's a mockumentary for the whole thing, but they do play it extremely straight, very, very straight throughout that entire film. This, because of the static on the television, where you can't quite see everything that's going on, but the apparent disfigurement, it's quite over the top. So it's, you can only suspend disbelief so far. So right off you're watching the victim of a horror film, aside from the victim of the massacre. But the interview carries on to the point that the subject, who had been the subject of the massacre, says that the person who perpetrated this is dead. And just then, after we've seen the montage of weapons and clown makeup, we see a giant clown shoe kick the screen out of the television. So whoever's watching is definitely an angry, maniacal clown.
We get our first little bit of gore in this situation because Monica is going to be on the phone, and after the interview went and it's just about to go live, and they are mocking cruelly their host and saying how horrific they look. Now, this subject looks like, you ever saw that woman that got her face eaten by the chimp? It's kind of like that. And I think that Damien Leone, he being in special effects, and much like the genesis of the Ninth Circle in the first place, just throwing a lot of stuff at the wall to basically exhibit his special effects. And I think this plot element is another thing like that. Look at this makeup that I can do. And we are going to have their interviewee, this horribly disfigured woman, kill Monica and basically rip her face off. And this opening shot of gore is extremely dramatic, but it's not necessarily convincing. Do you have any idea what this sounds so reductive, a normie, what would a normie think looking at something like that? Is that shocking? I never heard anybody really talk about what they think of the violence, who's not, they watch The Conjuring, they watch stuff like that, something from A24, something from Blumhouse. They're not watching this, and then they watch this. I wonder what the reaction is.
I think because they know what they're in for. They've seen the font. We'll start with the font of Terrifier. It's a horror movie font. It's a grindhouse horror movie font. So you're in for something rough and scary and edgy and maybe a little taboo. So it starts out with a kill that is to a certain extent lackluster. Like, it's not showcasing we see the showcase of the extent of his effects, talents. Like, holy shit, do we ever. The whole thing is a sizzle reel for Damien Leone's fantastic, nearly stupendous grasp of special effects and gore. But this one is just sort of meh. There's a lot of more rough, extreme horror movie fans who would just nod and say, yeah, that's a kill. I think that it's tempered by what this person stands for. They're the exploitative person. They're the Geraldo Rivera coming onto screen to mock and make fun and cajole and make a spectacle of somebody's misfortune and this whole story, which undoubtedly has other victims. So you instantly hate this woman and want to see her dead. So it's just that quick little kill that's not super duper crazy gory. It's well done enough that you're watching a horror film. It's probably not ketchup. It's not childishly done, but I think it sets you up for, you're about to see a hell of a lot of blood. You're going to feel okay about it. And this is not the first victim.
I just kept thinking about, would I be sad if somebody ripped off Dr. Phil's face? No. You're right.
No.
You're absolutely right. The plot of this film is very stark, much like the sets, much like the environment. This is an Indiegogo production. This is brought to us by Dread Central. This is a Dread Central production. Or presented by. And so when we're looking at the TV host, when we're looking at Art the Clown's hovel, when we're looking at all this stuff, it's almost like a play. You really are looking at a dark room with the suggestion of a set where they are just trying to give you the impression of where this person might be. Is this person in a dressing room? She's in a completely wide open space, sound stage, completely starked in darkness with like a coat rack in the corner. And you would get the sense like, is there no room for you to shoot this in? It's so strange, but it's effective. And this gore effect, I will also say that my opinion, my knee-jerk reaction to this gore effect was much like yours. Yeah. I mean, it's nothing. It's almost like when I was watching In a Violent Nature, where I like, come on, I was told that this was fucking shocking. And, eventually there are set piece kills in that film and this one as well. But first we're going to be introduced into the lovely Dawn and the lovely Tara. The one thing that I will say about all of the characters in this, because they represent such simplistic archetypes, they're so fucking memorable and iconic. Like everybody, yes, Tara is very striking in her skeleton dress, and it's like, it's silhouette and its character and how they're dressed. And Damien Leone is a special effects guy, so very visual. And so, Dawn is this sexy scarecrow, and so it all works very well. But even the stark archetypes of everybody, like down to the Mike, I'm gonna remember those characters and those actors and what they look like because they're so simple and bare bones. This was a criticism of this film, that it's nothing but gore for gore's sake. First of all, I disagree. Second of all, why is that a problem? Like I don't understand. Like, people are so weird where they're just like, this is just, there's no story. Shut up. Like, seriously, shut the fuck up. First of all, there is a story. And the story is Dawn and Tara are drunk and it's Halloween night. And
yeah. And
they are so wasted that they shouldn't drive. So, hey, there's a moral to this story. Don't drink and drive. Secondly, they're hungry. And we've all been there. We've all gotten pizza at the end of a long night of drinking and partying. And so they decide to go to this pizzeria, which is apparently a place that they like to go to a lot. And this whole pizza sequence, what do you got to say about it?
Oh, man. And like you've said, we've been here. I've been exactly here, sitting in a pizzeria at 2 a.m. with a drunk friend, with some creeper creeping. Holy shit. I think that's what made me fall in love with this movie entirely. Really, honestly, is, it is just so real and realistic. I could see people catching flack because they would say things like, these two girls are surreal because they're so pretty, and they don't, they would have friends around them to keep them safer, or things like that. Two girls out alone like this in the dead of night in the middle of the city isn't realistic. Yeah, it is. It's absolutely realistic. They're normal girls. They're not dressed too scantily either. I really love their outfits. Every time I watch this, and from the first time I watched it, I thought, what realistic girls. I feel like I know these girls, and I've definitely been in the space of these girls numerous times. So it's so very realistic. I'm sorry for those who have not had this sort of fun, who don't feel that this is a realistic portrayal of two girls out on Halloween, because it is a nice realistic portrayal of two girls out on Halloween. It's also a very realistic portrayal of a pizza place, because it's filmed in a real pizza place in New York, and you can go there probably to this day and get a delicious piece of pizza. But Yeah, I've been in, One for One downtown here in Ottawa. Very similar place. A lot of pizzerias look really similar, so you can easily put yourself in these girls' shoes. And when Art the Clown has seen them outside, just the first introduction to a creepy guy in an alleyway watching them is a terrifying scene. He is the Terrifier from the word go here. And he goes into the pizzeria after them. And you had mentioned in our previous episode, like, what's he gonna do? What's he gonna do? That feeling of what the hell is this guy gonna do transcends reality really quickly and easily, and it's shorthand for you don't fucking know what he's gonna do.
That tension that is brought through this physical performance is something that, again, going back to just these the girls, their silhouette, their costuming, everything tells a story and they stick out in your mind. The silhouette that Art the Clown casts from the moment that he shows up on screen really fully when we get to a good look at him. And this is so memorable and so iconic. Immediately you understand that this thing was put together with precision to evoke this like reaction out of people, and to have the physical performance on top of the visuals is just icing on the cake. And those moments in which he's being still are some of the creepiest moments, because you wonder, is he going to spring to life like a jack in the
Mm,
box at any
yeah.
moment? And so, yeah, it's like, oh, what are you going to do, buddy? What are you going to do? Like, don't hurt these girls. They're too hot. Like, let's go move on to other people. And the dialogue in this scene is so natural, and Tara is immediately squicked out. And it really kind of her dynamic between Dawn and Tara are so interesting, because as someone who's usually fairly high alert and has anxiety, I see like react like and having friends who aren't even on the same wavelength. They're too drunk, they're too devil may care, they're too bold, and Dawn and Tara are two very different types of people. And Dawn is continuously forgetting that Art is even in the room. Like, like it's just like,
Yeah.
what, that guy? I was like, yeah, that guy. The guy that looks like he is in a super elaborate Halloween costume with a garbage bag, that is followed you into this pizzeria and is just staring daggers at your friend.
And you can tell Tara is very concerned about the state of his teeth, like anyone should be, and Dawn has probably not even noticed. It's hilarious. It is so perfect. These two girls are written so very, very well and so believably, and they do have this sort of pepper and salt dynamic, which is immediately recognizable and believable and relatable. Yeah, I absolutely have had friends exactly like Dawn, and I've also from time to time sort of fallen into a Dawn character after a few drinks myself. But it's, the pizzeria, the guys at the pizzeria have an idea that this guy's like could cause trouble. So he's like, "You girls okay?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, we're fine." Because that's what you say, because you really are, at the end of the day, fine. He hasn't said anything to you, if he talks at all, which he doesn't. He hasn't touched you yet. He hasn't, like, hurt anyone around you. You have no reason to lay blame at this guy's feet at this point, his big floppy clown feet, because he has done nothing. He saw you. He could have been coming in there for a pizza himself completely innocently, right?
Yeah, except he doesn't order any pizza. He does go to a gumball machine and give Tara a little ring as if some sort of mocking proposal. Then he heads into the bathroom, and in the weirdest, literally the weirdest thing in this entire movie, that to this day, I'm like, why does he do this? He smears his own shit all over the place, and it's a lot of shit.
He does this in All Hallows Eve as well. Spoiler alert. And not that
Oh.
it's a big thing, but it's a thing Art does. He likes to do this. He likes to do this to create a distraction. I think it's really his way, his favorite way. It's a funny way of splitting people up. of causing a distraction, of getting somebody busy doing something, right? To, you know, this is one of his MOs, if you will. Maybe he's a corpophiliac too. There's also that.
He gets thrown out for his trouble, and the ladies finish their pizza and they go. When they return back to Dawn's car, they discover that their tire has been damaged. It's been slashed, but for all they know, and this is Dawn just being like, I probably just like drove over a nail or something like that. Again, completely unbothered, completely unconcerned that a weird guy saw them in their car, knows which vehicle is Don's, followed them into the pizza shop, was acting erratic and strange, left, and then they just so happened to also have a flat tire where there wasn't one before that they had noticed. And Tara, of course, is on high alert. And now that they're stranded there and drunk and it's late, it's time to send in the cavalry, and she will call her sister Victoria so Victoria could come and give them a ride.
I like the short names of all these girls. You got Tara and Dawn and Vic. She doesn't even go by Victoria. It's Vic. And it's wonderful. I just like that. I don't know why I like it so much, but I do. I also like the older sister dynamic of like, yeah, I have an exam in the morning, but my roommate's banging someone, probably gonna be loud and gross here any minute, so I gotta go.
Oh, my nightmare. Again, going back to urban legend, I was like, why do they make late teens, early 20 people the horniest types of people like share bedrooms like this? This is so weird. And I just can't imagine. Again, I'm not much of an exhibitionist, so this is very strange to me. But Vic does decide to rescue her sister and her sister's friend. And so all they need to do is wait in the car for some help. But wouldn't you know it, Tara has to pee.
This line, for some reason, the "I just can't go out in the street and pop a squat like you do," sticks in my mind, and I don't know why. I've definitely seen friends of mine and being that friend who has to pop a squat in the middle of the street, not in the middle of the street, that's gross, but, like, use the, nature's toilet, right? You mean the great
Yeah, that's right.
outdoors. Yeah, or what have you, to get the job done when you have to. I mean, it is a little scarier in the city, I will say. You really do want, I think they should have traveled together at this point, but it works for our story that they don't. Because lo and behold, Mike, everyone's favorite Mike, he comes out of this semi-abandoned walk up, like, I guess it's a warehouse of some sort, or it was a place of business that he is bug bombing. He is the extermination guy. They have a rat problem in this building, and he's the only guy for miles that isn't dressed in a fucking clown outfit. And he comes out and he's just like, "Nah, I can't really let you in here to have a pee. I don't own the place. I'm just here. I could get in trouble." But of course, Dawn, being Dawn, yells out, "Just let her use the washroom already. She'll make it worth your while." And I'm like, "Oh, you embarrassing piece of shit." Yeah, I've had instances like this. "Can I borrow a pen?" "Oh, yeah, she's going to take your number," kind of things. So annoying. It's like he can't say no.
Well, at the very least, it does give Tara the access that she's looking for. Meanwhile, while these ladies are having this discussion about Art the Clown and how he's probably harmless, he is brutally killing both the people at the pizzeria. And we get another idea about how violent this movie is going to be. Now, initially, we have the owner of the pizza shop. He's decapitated. He's a jack-o'-lantern. Seen that before. So we also don't see the murder, so we don't really get a sense of just how brutal and languid some of these kills are going to be until we get to the other guy at the pizza shop and just how continuously he is stabbed in the face.
Really, he is. And he's the guy who had to clean up the poop. So he's already mad at Art to a certain extent. He goes to call the police, gets his hand chopped off for his trouble. And then we see the real brutality. that art is capable of. And all of those feelings of terror, all those feelings of apprehension or confusion or intimidation that you felt, or that these girls would have felt sitting in that pizzeria, pay off big time, because it's like you knew it. You knew this guy was trouble. You knew he was mental. You knew he was capable of extreme violence and danger. And it pays off immediately. And we're very early into this film by this point. It also pays off with another sort of horror movie trope of hearing the violence on the radio and knowing that you're in trouble because the radio is letting you know.
Yeah, Donna's going to get a little bit of information about this this crime would have happened minutes ago, and by the time the radio announcer is announcing it, I mean, God, the blood would still be wet. But apparently there was some kind of witness that not only could tell you, so within minutes they know two people were killed. They know where those two people were killed. They have a perfect dead on description of the assailant, and they know the area in which that he is. And while Dawn is alone in the car, she realizes that Tara was right. And Tara returns to the vehicle, and Dawn can't wait to tell her all about it. That is not Tara. Ooh, shit, that is art.
And here's where one of the first cut scenes are, because she says, "Oh my God, you will not believe what I just heard on the radio about that guy we saw," and turns, and it's Art the Clown. And she screams, and that's where the scene ends. And I had seen these cut scenes before, and there's two apparently on the disc. There's very few cut scenes in this film, and it's very short, where Art mocks her screaming, and I wish they would have kept it in, because that's one of my favorite things ever, when a murderer or anything, a creature, mocks the screaming of a person. I love that. And I would have loved this because it would have lent to his more animalistic nature or his hokey jokey fun time nature. Maybe they weren't looking for fun time art at this point, but yeah. And then he injects her with something, which we also don't see.
I think that with the injection and the mocking of her screaming, it telegraphs too much about what is going to happen. I think the confusion, the time lapse, we don't know what Art the Clown did or is going to do, and we don't know what happened to Dawn. I do think that it adds to it. I think like
Uh,
there is, to me personally, like
yeah.
I think
Makes it more surprising later because
yes.
we're assuming she's just dead immediately, and dead is like the guy is in the pizza shop, dead in situ.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And I think that the big reveal, because really, honestly, truly, Dawn will be the set piece of this film. It'll be the thing that makes you sit back in your chair and say, "Oh, I haven't seen that before." So, and I really think that, and I know that that is the turning point for many people who would watch this film and are not prepared. We are still in this warehouse. The rest of the film is going to take place within this building. And I think that this again is something that you and I are very familiar with, because it looks like you got 15 bucks and we have a warehouse.
Yeah.
I know a
Yeah.
guy that says that we can shoot in this warehouse overnight. They're going to demolish the building. And because this is a filthy, plaster peeling, disgusting, I bet those rats are real type place where it's not art directed at all. I would almost guarantee you this is found this way. They shot in New York and New Jersey and stuff like that. There's buildings like this there. And so they were able to have access to this. And of course, buildings like this are difficult to light. These old concrete buildings tend to swallow light, so there's this grainy darkness around everything, and everyone's in such heavy shadow. And this is going to be really, truly the look of the film for the rest of it. And we're going to be in this environment. And I'm so familiar, and I know you are familiar with films that have budgets like this and sets like this. But I wonder if like this sort of lo-fi, low budget aesthetic was jarring to people. I really have no idea.
I'd have to say they did a really good job with it, where a lot of the aesthetic people would think is put on, that they put a filter over everything, which they did in some cases, sure. Everything's color balanced. Every film's color balanced. It's color balanced in a certain palette. It's color tuned. I forget the term I'm looking for, but it's art directed for sure. But I think that they are, the cameraman here, who I'd have to look up, is just amazing. I've seen a lot of things done in confined spaces where it limits not only what you can do with light, it limits what you can do with your atmosphere, your environment, as far as set dressing and props, and it limits what you can do with your lens, and you get sort of locked into a couple of aspects, and you get locked into a couple shots, and nothing worse than a film where it's all fucking close-ups and closer close-ups. Like, and that's it, because you can only back up 5 feet with your 55 millimeter lens from the people, and everything looks exactly the fucking same. It's so annoying. They did so well with this, being able to shoot at interesting angles continuously, being able to use a multi-camera setup even at all in this and still block out everything properly is just like an amazing feat. So I think that that's what pulls the wool over people's eyes who aren't as in tune with watching grindhouse or independent horror films and wouldn't be as forgiving. They just got away with so much. Looking at some of the behind the scenes stuff, there's scenes where they have like a pizza box like 3 inches out of frame, and I would not be able to handle that. I would want a larger area of set control. I would want set dressed environment as a character for like 10 feet surrounding my subject. I wouldn't be able to work with such tight confines. So like huge kudos to the filmmaking, the direction, of course, and everything that went into this on a small cast, a very small crew. Like somehow they accomplished the near impossible with this. And I think that that's what really lent it to people watching it and thinking that everything is a set, right? Because that's what they're used to watching, right? With movies, everything's a set.
That's true. I didn't think about it that way. And also, art just looks so good. Again, he pops in these moments, and particularly against this grimy background, he looks so much crisper than everything around him, even when he's covered in blood and filth, which, by the way, he's covered in blood and filth. Tara is going to open the door, and now there he is, just standing there, being a silly little guy. And he is going to stand there like a statue and then suddenly spring to life like the jack in the box that he is. And thus begins the cat and mouse game between Tara and Art.
I will add in here it's George Stuber, one of the 3 main linchpins to this between Damien Leone, Phil Falcone, and George Stuber. He's also a co-writer, I believe. Um, but one of the like 3 guys that made this film happen. Just really, 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 really amazing stuff. Worked on all the Terrifier movies. All Hallows Eve seems to be a partner in crime to the face of the feature, which is Damien Leone. But when Tara comes in and Art is standing at the door and he's doing that thing where he's like frozen in time. He's just standing there. It's almost not scary for a split second, but we've seen now what he's capable of. And he pops up his arms almost like a Dracula Nosferatu and like chases after her in the most cartoonish fashion that a seasoned horror film can't help but laugh.
And it does differentiate it from a lot of things that we have seen before. Again, this physical performance, Art the Clown, his look and everything, it's all just working so well. I think that the virality of this film and how it spread around, a lot of it would because there's lots of movies. You know, Satan's Little Helper. That's a movie in which there's a silent killer that has a cartoonish, grandiose, theatrical body motions and stuff. And that film fell into relative obscurity. It had a little bit of a bump when they released a boutique label version of that film, but then again, it dies back down. This doesn't have the penetration of Art the Clown, and very few things do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, like moms at Spirit Halloween know who the fuck Art the Clown is. So when you're looking at all of this, you can see that it's so elevated in this performance and in how this character was presented. You get it, but the one thing that I don't get is how. And I suppose it's one of those things where you can't really say what will be successful. You just have to throw a bunch of shit at the wall and see what sticks. And this just happened to get the right amount of people to look at it. And then they shared it with the right amount of people, and so on and so forth. And this becomes this humongous franchise. But it's working very well here. And this cat and mouse game between Tara and Art is fucking brutal because they don't wait for anything. And I need to emphasize that to people. There is so much temptation when you have a slasher to not really show that slasher. Even the first Freddy Krueger, he's obscured through a good portion of that film until he becomes and then, you know, later all these slashers become rock stars, but not at first. They are used sparingly. They are shadows. Art the Clown is full frame in color from the jump of this movie. And you are going to be everyone is very much aware of him. Everyone is looking at him. The camera focuses on him. So again, it's subverting expectations again. And we don't even wait for a third act Achilles tendon stab. We have Art the Clown like an animal just stabbing her ankle over and over and over again. And there's this part where it would seem overwhelming to Tara, and it is, because it's just he's going at her like an animal, like a vicious animal.
I really like how they've already subverted so much of horror movie expectations in that showing, like you said, it's Art full frontal from the get-go. We also know that he's acting alone. Like, we're pretty sure he's got this garbage bag full of fucking goodies. But other than that, like, there's no entourage. There's no one helping him. There's no one directing his actions. He's just, this is a whim. He's going about this on a whim, it seems. And he's literally just riding the wave of what is she going to do next? What am I going to do next? Nobody fucking knows. You know, best plan is no plan, as my father used to say. We also realize that if we remember back to him putting on his makeup, because it was hard, we're pretty sure, it's not really an outfit. He was putting that makeup on to bare flesh. There's something really terrifying about this guy in that he can move sort of teleportation in a way to a certain extent. He seems to be. He's behaving like he thinks he's behaving like the killer in a horror movie because of the way he's creeping around after her. Once he gets at her, all of that falls away. He's not a guy pretending to be a creepy clown. He's something else entirely altogether. Why he didn't just pounce on her and kill her immediately is the question. Why is he toying with his food, so to speak? I don't know if we ever really get an answer to that.
I always just get the impression because it's a laugh.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people get the business really brutally, and other times they're dispatched fairly quickly. And weirdly, it's not even about revenge, because there are people who get the drop on Art way more than other people, and they kind of get the least of it. Like they're killed relatively quickly if you think about it. Tara is going to get into this game of cat and mouse, and you are lulled into a false sense of what this film is going to be, because they got some more tricks up their sleeve that, I'll be honest with you, as much as I had seen memes of stuff, And as much as I was aware of the pizza shop, I was aware of this upcoming scene. There are certain things that it was completely obscured from me that I didn't know, and shocked. But the first thing that we'll get to is the set piece scene, the scene that everybody talks about. This is everyone making this film saying, what do you think of this? And what it is Tara is subdued. She is taped to a chair, but the subject of Art's ire will not be Tara. It will be Dawn, who we now see revealed as a tarp removed. She is nude and she is upside down.
Quite timely in a way if you've been watching the Ed Gein Monster series, for better or worse, on Netflix right now, because as a true crime fan, it's laughable. But there are some very good set piece gore, horror gags in that, as far as a woman trussed up like a deer that you're preparing as meat. And this is way bloodier. There's a lot less care given to Dawn's well-being in this, the brief few moments that she spends alive in this position. Um, I can see how some people would misconstrue this as sexual deviancy due to the proliferation of really cool leather cuffs used in the S&M scene, but it's nothing like that. And there's nothing, I think, these could have been men, right? They just caught his eye and crossed his path. That's really it. There is no, and the fact that it's a naked woman, I suppose, because toplessness, male or female, can be misconstrued as a sexual, as something of a sexual nature, and there's none of that at all. There's not a sexy bone in Art's body. Trust me, there really isn't. So I really do enjoy this, like the artistry of this scene, the setup of this scene, the positioning of Dawn as a set piece in more ways than one. It's Damien Leone's sizzle reel of amazing special effects, because even though we do get to a point where the puppetry is evident, it's it's gory and brilliant and something you haven't quite seen before, maybe since Bone Tomahawk. People have been sawn in half in lots of films. People have been sawn in half quite abruptly and fallen in half quite viscerally in films. But nothing quite like this with the glee with which Art saws a woman in half before her best friends and ours very eyes.
Yeah, the first time I saw someone graphically sawed in half in a film was Leprechaun 3, Leprechaun in Las Vegas. That happens in that film. When I'm thinking about this scene, and to anybody who would have tapped out in and around here before any actual gore happens, it's hard to convince people to watch this type of stuff. So, I always want to approach people who want to watch this type of horror, but they think it might be a bit too much for them. I'll remind you, it's a movie and these are actors and special effects and it's a script and no one was hurt. But I can understand how that can still not help. But I really don't view it as sexual. And if anything, the reason why she's sawn in the way that she's sawn, basically from asshole to head, is because it would last longer. I actually watch the scene and wonder how long until she's dead. Like how long? Like, she's cut in half in a few minutes, although he doesn't finish. But how long until she's not really feeling anything anymore? And it's hard to really say. This scene is really fucking stunning in terms of just, wow, okay, yeah, this is where you hear about something and it completely lives up to the hype. And it is kind of amusing when you look at the close shots of Art looking back at Tara, because it's that Schadenfreude. It's the grand guignol of the stages in Paris. It's this, what do you think of this? He's like the Marquis de Sade. And,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and so it's that type of reaction where Tara Tara freaks out long enough to then compose herself rather abruptly, and then she's like, I gotta get out of this fucking chair. And I like how she springs into action. It also seems like Art the Clown is somehow 300 meters away from her, because he's like, oh, I better go. And he's like hurriedly walking up to her, and she's got so much time, guys, to get out of that chair. It takes him forever to get there to him. I was like, next time, Art, put the chair closer. She does eventually get the drop on him and beat his ass pretty severely. There's more cat and mouse here. There is more chasing. Tara now is embodying the spirit of the final girl, the way that people, not how Carol Clover described the final girl, but how audiences view a final girl. We have Tara, we have a block of wood, we have beating Art. He is getting down for the count. I love how he sells all of the shots. It's very funny. It's hard not to laugh, like when you're looking at how ridiculous he's being. But they have one more trick up their sleeve. And this, I maintain, more so than what comes after, but more so, this moment is the single most subversive thing in the entire slasherdom. Art's gonna pull out a fucking gun, and he is going to shoot Tara. Have we seen final girls get killed? Have we seen women we thought were final girls get killed midway through a movie? Alfred Hitchcock did it. Wes Craven did it. Twice. He did it twice. And lots of other people have done it. This is the first time in which a slasher pulls out a gun. Slasher? They're supposed to be slashing. Have you ever seen Jason Voorhees pull out a Glock? Never. Even if they have a gun, they will use the gun as a penetrating weapon. But not Art.
Blunt force trauma, one of the two. And often they will get it away from somebody else who's brandishing the weapon, and they toss it like a rock.
Tara gets shot in the thigh, and that is brutal. It's more than a flesh wound. It is bleeding. She doesn't have a lot of time left. He then callously shoots her in the torso. Gang, I did not see this coming. Like, I really did not see this coming. I did not anticipate Tara, beautiful, lovely, skeleton-dressed Tara, getting shot in the face over and over and over again. Well, Art doesn't look like he's having fun. He's mad. It's
mad and a little forlorn. I think that it's not that playtime's over necessarily. I think it's just like, God damn it, I didn't want to have to use this stupid gun.
That's a good read on the situation, because I read it as he was just so annoyed, like, and furious at her that, like, you ruined my game, and now I can't play with you the way that I want to, and this isn't going how I wanted, and I'm so now angry at you that I'm just gonna shoot you. Like, and to me, that's the monster. That's really Art the Clown, this dead, no joy into being a clown. And maybe we don't know what Art the Clown is, but like, if I were to impose my own belief system on it, whatever Art the Clown was before, whatever the fuck he turned into, I felt like we were looking at him in that moment, just like, ugh, and just shooting it, maybe because he was so damaged. But Tara is fucking dead. And meanwhile, her sister has shown up. We did skip over a couple of deaths, though.
Yeah, we skipped over a little character too. Everyone's favorite, the cat lady. Everyone's favorite to forget, because I often forget all about this goddamn character. I like her as an addition. I like her as the way that her character is utilized for my second favorite Art the Clown scene ever. And you know, she's a lady that is in this building, and she's a deluded homeless person who thinks that the doll she carries around is her daughter. There's not much more to the cat lady than just that. She encounters Art shortly after this scene, because he has been beat up and he is a little ticked off. And I use the word forlorn just in that that's part of the emotions, if there are emotions that we get. when he has to use this gun. I was also, when the first time I saw this, being like, well, I guess Tara isn't who that mangled faced person is at the in the TV studio that we saw at the beginning. Like, because I guess that this is how this happened, right? That's what I was guessing. And I was kind of hoping that Tara would make it through, whether in whole or in part. But I guess that's not her, right? Oh, well. I guess Art is pretty happy that there's other people in the building because he's got someone to toy with. The cat lady comes up to him because she's a little delusional, and he has her doll. And she's trying to get her doll back. So she's like trying to be gentle and being like, oh, do you have kindness in your heart? Have you ever known a mother's touch? And she cradles him. And it's just a surreal moment. I could see a lot of people not, caring much for this scene, but it is interesting in that he will just play whatever role. He goes from being a little bit angry and forlorn to just like, yeah, whatever. I'll pretend to suckle my thumb and get hugged by mommy for a moment so that we, as the audience, can spend a little bit of time with Tara's sister, who has arrived and is banging on the doors and like trying to figure out where her sister is.
Art really utilizing technology here is really funny. We only really see him speak through text messages where he sends Tara's sister Vic a message saying from Dawn, both of whom are dead at this point, saying Tara's throwing up, come around back. We've also, by the way, lost Mike, our exterminator, who got hammered in the head, at least for now, and then his coworker gets his head sawn off. This hallway sequence with the cat lady, this very narrow boiler room-esque hallway, they'll use a couple of times in this movie. I really, 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 really like the shots from this hallway. I just think it's so weird and genuinely creepy. Do you remember that movie we did for the show where it was supposed to be taking place in hell, but instead of hell, they used this sort of gray ash demon that was in a boiler room? Do you remember that? Like a narrow hallway, and that was supposed to be their interpretation of hell. I can't remember the name of that movie off the top of my head right now, but that's what it really reminds me of. Again, we're in the territory of low budgets where you're just looking at that shot, and I'm sure they just ran around that warehouse and tried to pick locations that looked sufficiently creepy and have sufficiently creepy lighting. And man, this just works for me. And I end up remembering this cat lady scene more vividly than any other scene. I didn't even remember what happened to her. In fact, I completely misremembered what happened to her because Vic is going to encounter this scene, and fuck, this is weird. This is like, we are going to encounter art and drag, for lack of a better word. He has killed this woman, cut off a good majority of her skin, is wearing her skin and has scalped her, and is now kind of like, he's kind of dancing around like, I'm a lady now. And it would have to be...
declare, have the vapors. And he's, preening. It's very interesting. And we want to drive home that he has not spoken a word up until this point. And as far as my saying he doesn't have a sexual bone in his body, this is, again, not it. This isn't him fondling breasts as he cut them off. This is him doing his best Ed Gein impression, it seems, in that creepy hallway, which reminded me quite a lot of some of the places that we first see Freddy Krueger in the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Just all the steam and backlit and darkness and pipes and industrial settings or boiler room settings. Very much, reminded me very much of that. It's also the place where we get another aspect of the supernatural nature, maybe the first hint of the supernatural nature of Art the Clown, where he tells the cat lady shush, but he doesn't say shush. A pipe releases steam just as he puts his finger to his mouth to sort of say shh. And it was jarring when I first saw it, And I thought, okay, that's the closest he's ever going to come to speaking. And I was right, of course. He doesn't utter a word through the rest of this film. He doesn't even grunt when he's being beaten. He doesn't do anything but pantomime. And maybe this is the streams should never cross a clown and a mime. It's some horrible abomination of clown mime. Uh, it's so effective. And during this, it's I misremember it that the music changes. Like the music in this is really good. It's very fitting, sort of like, whether Mike's listening to some sort of like gothy pop punk or something, but the synth score within this film doesn't really let up. It doesn't change a heck of a lot either. But I always misremember there being carnival music during the scene and a spotlight, and there isn't. I think I'm wanting it to be scenes from The Greasy Strangler, but I think that I misremember this just because of the physicality again of Thornton and being, trained as a kid even for stage, or maybe having to one up himself against all of the other actors and actresses, having to come across as so much more physical, maybe using his height and his build to his advantage all of his life as an actor. It gets boiled down to its essence here, where not only do I believe that he is preening around like a Southern belle, I put in fucking different lighting and music.
Yeah, that's funny. I do really also love the score in this film. There is something pretty iconic and simple about it, and I think that's the term that I would think of the most. It's just the entire film is just very simple, and I'm sure it wasn't simple to make, but I just mean in terms of just while you're watching it, everything just fucking works. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. We'll get into complicated as the series progresses, but for now, it seems to be in its purest concept. Mike's coworker is going to get his head sawn off. This is another fairly long sequence in which someone is decapitated, but again, it's hard to come back from Dawn's death scene and even Tara's death scene. And I think one of the reasons why the cat lady sequence, I think, is on par. It's perhaps not as like the act of murder is not being performed in front of you, but in terms of like disturbing, fucked up shit, it's pretty good in terms of keeping on pace with Dawn's death. But even I'm still reeling. I am still trying to orient myself in the fact that we have just swapped protagonists, as Vicky has literally just entered this horrific scene, and all these characters that we started the movie with are no longer with us. So many of these characters are dropping dead, and we don't really have a way to reconcile that because the murders just keep coming. And I'm trying to reorient myself, being like, okay, so what kind of movie is this? And during that cat lady sequence where she's, trying to console him and get Emily, her doll Emily, her daughter doll Emily, away from Art the Clown, I'm just sitting there thinking, like, what is the rest of this movie? Well, the rest of the movie is going to be, again, going back to first principles of a cat and mouse game. But Vicky is going to be distracted yet again, as Art loves the art of the murder, I suppose, where he has now cruelly mocked up Tara back into a chair, has strung her around with orange LED lights, and has just put circus, a sign that says circus. Why? I don't know. Is she the circus?
He had a circus sign in a previous film. I will say that much. He had access to a circus sign. He also did try to suffocate somebody with a bit of saran wrap or cellophane or plastic paper, if you will. And it goes horribly wrong for him in both cases. And he's always looks at the cellophane afterward like, what the hell? How'd she escape? And it's hilarious because how many horror movies have you watched where you are like, just fucking poke a hole in the plastic bag, you nincompoop? I'm sure a lot of people are bound, a lot of people are struggling, or they're already half dead by the point that they get a plastic bag or cellophane or plastic of any sort over their face. But I just you cheer a little bit when a victim pokes a hole in the plastic that is suffocating them and tears free because it's fucking plastic and runs. And I just love the art of the kill, as you said, where he looks at the plastic like, how did that not work? It's so funny.
He does seem very betrayed by the cellophane. Like, he's like, you plastic bag, you fucked me over. But don't you worry, he's got a makeshift cat of nine tails.
Yes. Uh, I called it the random office equipment of Nine Tails because it is just like, manicure scissors and fucking straight razor and just random shit that's chained onto this. It's not a real cat of nine tails. It does a lot of damage though. Like, his bag of tricks has got everything. He's got hacksaws, hammers, clubs, also like other cutting implements, his cat o' nine tails, a gun. Like, what else has he got in there?
Yeah, it's a bit of a supernatural plastic bag because so much of that stuff is so sharp in there. There's no way a garbage bag would hold any of it, yet it does, and there seems to be an infinite dimension to it, but yet it also bears no weight. So it's this interesting video game logic where
Mhm.
you just have a bag just full of shit that he uses to commit his crime. He's got backup ammunition. And I love how he doesn't always have the bag with him. He basically sets up an area in which this is where my garbage bag is. And he keeps having to walk back to it because he keeps running out of things, or things run out of ammo, or things break, it's not working. And so what else do I got in the bag? Because I can't just strangle you to death, because that's not Art the Clown. That's somebody else. I'm not the strangler. I'm Art the Clown. I got to do something cooler. And you have this passion of the Christ ass fucking moment where he's just whipping her and whipping her and whipping her, and blood and just going everywhere, and she is completely at her mercy. And then, much like Michael Myers coming out of the shadows, who it is but old Mike, who survived that hammer shot to the head, and he manages to incapacitate Art the Clown long enough to grab Vicky and try to hightail it out of there. So, because they want to go and call the police.
I like this scene quite a bit. Mike's a bit of a hero. Everyone likes a little hero. And we're pretty sure that this is our final girl, right? Like, we got tricked a couple times here already, and luckily it's her sister, so she gets transplanted quite easily, and she does some horror movie things that make us believe her as a really good final girl. She's traps herself at one point in a closet where she can see out and has a bit of a tete-a-tete with Mike, or a bit of a tete-a-tete with Art the Clown. So, we like Vic as our final girl. We like Mike as our helper type person. He does the one thing that I always just can't stand in horror films or real life. You don't let go of the 911 operator. If you get a 911 operator in a horror movie, especially, if you realize you're in a horror movie and you can call out, wow, you're doing pretty good. You get a hold of a 911 operator that believes you and takes you seriously, that's great too. But then he hangs up on her, and I wish he would have just stayed on the phone. If this was a real movie. And there's a couple of times in this movie where I really wish I could rewrite it. I've heard of people saying this before about films where they watch it and hope it changes, hope it's different this time. There's two parts in this movie that I have that feeling. It's when Tara dies, for one. I want her to live. I like that character so, so much. And I want Mike to not hang up on 911. I want him to stay on the phone. I want the cops to get there a little quicker. I want him to say the guy's dressed as a clown because everyone would come running. They're just down the road. They're just down the road at the pizza place. It's around the corner. Like, you could see the pizza place probably from where the car is. So, like, if he would have said that this guy's dressed as a clown, there's like all points out for this guy. So yeah, they would have been there so much quicker. Instead, this gives us time for more cat and mouse because Mike's like, we gotta go. I'm gonna take her to Emerge right now. We gotta go.
Yeah, it's so funny that they don't just hunker down and try to. Well, it's bad enough that, I mean, Vicky is freaking out. She doesn't want Mike to leave her. Understandably, she's just been brutalized. Her sister's been murdered,
Mhm.
and he's like, "Don't wait right there. I'll be right back. I'm just going over there. Just take her with you. Why do you need to stand 9 feet away from her to make a phone call? It doesn't make any sense. She's traumatized. Like, just bring her with you." I'm glad you said something about wanting Tara to live. Oh my God, in my soul, I wish this character survived. And I normally don't play that game either. I normally just allow the movie to tell me the story. And I will say this much, I did not see that coming. So anyone who says that this movie is cliche does not know what they're talking about. I'll just cite that right now because it completely subverts every expectation you have multiple times, including the death of Tara midway through the film, which I did not see coming. But again, so likable, so great, so iconic. You want her to somehow, even after she got shot in the face and there was only one bullet hole, my brain was still like, she can get out of this somehow. Somehow she'll live, probably, maybe. It was not in the cards. Mike is going to get his head stomped in for his trouble. And again, it kind of I suppose one cliche is like the classic, there's two of you versus one Art the Clown. He's not the biggest guy in the world. You could probably fuck him up. But yet she's too scared to help Mike. And it's too late because Art is going to bash his head in with, it looks like a thing off of Barbecue. And then he's going to get stomped with big floppy clown shoes until his head basically caves in.
And it's one of those, head explosion things in a horror movie that's quite graphic, and it's much like watermelon getting split. It's done really well. I think in some of the outtakes, you hear the actress who played Tara, Jenna Cannell, talking about how if she was really in a fight with Thornton, she'd win because he's maybe not a fighter, maybe not a fighter. So it would be nice to see two people take Art down, just if you're an anti-Art kind of guy. But I'm a pro-Art kind of gal, so I'm very glad that he gets to terrorize Vic further and has Mike out of the way, like you want in a horror movie if you're rooting for the villain, right? Like, no one should in real life root for villains ever, but in the horror movie, it's a safe space where you can get to do that.
Yeah, because you're allowed to live out that imp of the perverse that you might have. Art is going to get separated from Vicky because Vicky's going to stab him in the eye with an implement and get away from him. They are going to find themselves divided by some doors in a chain, and Art is going to, in a super surreal moment, just grab his clown horn out of frustration and just honk it at her.
I love this. It's one of those things that I think there's times when people would throw up their hands and just be like, I can't take this movie seriously. This guy's a fucking goon, right? Like, you can't, he's sawed someone in half. Okay, whatever. Then he's traipsing around in a wig, like, whatever. And then, so he's got this clown horn that he's honking furiously, ferociously, and it's one of the other sounds he makes. It's the closest thing to "fuck you, you bitch, I'm gonna get you, don't you fuck with me" kind of thing, but he's also grinning. So I could see a lot of people just kind of throwing their hands up and, not being interested in this.
I think that these scenes enable you to get through a film like this, because otherwise, if you were to just watch the film, then it is headless. Then it is just too brutal. And I think that in a way, the surreal moments in which Art the Clown is acting strange and silly, like, again, just embodying that silly little guy energy where he's just a little ragamuffin, a little scamp, and you forget about the murder. by design. That's how you cast the largest net humanly possible for this franchise. That's how come it works, I think, in a weird way. And it makes everything, it's just that spoonful of sugar that just helps everything be less sad, because this movie, gang, is sad. It's sad to think about people wanting to party and really harming nobody and being stalked and killed by somebody just because they were there. No one did anything but help each other and be kind. Everyone's doing each other favors. Mike is letting Tara use the bathroom. The pizza guy stood up for the ladies and asked if they were okay, and the pizza double checks to make sure Tara, who he can tell is the one who's the most worried, if she's okay. Vicky goes out of her way. She's got an exam in 5 hours. She leaves her house. She goes to help her sister. She goes to the back of the building to help her sister further. Mike makes a panicked call. His friend shows up to help Mike to try to, like, everyone is helping each other. Everybody. Like, a poor mentally ill woman is snapped back to reality when she sees a genuine murder in front of her, and she's terrified, and she's just trying to, again, survive by showing Art kindness. Everybody will be killed. And I think that if you didn't have the little silly yucks along the way, this would be a fucking, I'm not saying it'd be a slog that you don't want to watch it, but I am saying that you don't get to Hot Topic and Spirit Halloween if that's your movie. You just don't.
No, because then it would be I Spit on Your Grave, and no one's got the Rock in the Forest kind of thing as a, paperweight.
No,
that's not a thing. It's not, you don't buy that for your children, sight unseen, not knowing what film it's about.
Blood-covered boat toy abattoir playset.
Wouldn't that be grand? I mean, there's a certain audience for those things. I mean, yes, sure, a very small audience of maybe not deviant-minded people, but those who have a very different appreciation for horror film, especially exploitative or extremely gory, gratuitous, or hard-to-watch film, challenging filmmaking, where this could fall in a lot of those categories. But instead we have Mike's coworker, Will, who showed up late, found the key when he couldn't get a hold of his coworker, Mike, and let himself into the building only to get his head cut off, with which Art punts and it hits something in the corner that dings, and it turns out to be a tricycle. A tricycle, Wes. I'm going to give myself a little ride around on the tricycle. That's what I'm picturing as Art the Clown's mindset. He's not, at that point, a killer. He's a guy being like, look at me go, man. Nothing funnier than a big guy on a little bike. He does have that whimsy to him, and it will continue because that's not the only vehicle he's going to be in. He's going to get into Mike's truck, and he is going to use that to barrel open the chained up doors. And now he has also hit Vicky with this, and then, because they're there anyway, and he's not exhibited this before, but let's just do it. He's gonna eat her face. Gang, Vicky's gonna get her face ate. Yeah, it's hard to tell exactly what's going on, but it is bloody and brutal. And I do like that the truck is Serling Brothers Extermination, which I think is a nod to Rod Serling of Twilight Zone. I really do. And this is like sort of the doorway busting open, if you want to get figurative here. The door has finally been opened. One of the doors in this building of terrors that they've been trapped in is finally open to the outside world, which can let in cops to stop them. The cops are yelling. They have guns drawn, pointing at Art the Clown, yelling, "Get off her! Back away from her! We got you!" They don't got him for long. What else is in Art's bag of tricks? Well, we know he has a gun. He's gonna pull it and he's gonna use it, but not on those cops. He uses it on himself. And it's just like, wow, what a weird cathartic letdown that everything's finally sort of, the day is saved. The cops are there. Everything's going to be okay. But we get no comeuppance. And this is what I really dislike, to take it to brutal reality, when mass shooters, school shooters in particular, don't live through their day of terror. Because I want people to talk to them. I want to know why. I want them to be studied. I want Art the Clown to tell them why. The guy who hasn't uttered a word. And I guess it's just a human thing, aside from curiosity, or a morbid curiosity, wanting to know what drives them to what they're doing. And at this stage, what we would think is that, well, that is dashed. Not only did some people would want that sick satisfaction of having the good guys win by killing the bad guy. Those people who probably enjoy things like the death penalty being a thing, they don't get that satisfaction either. Art robs them of that, shoots himself right in the mouth, and that's it. The cop, though, one of them, realizes that Vicky is still alive.
Miraculously, she is alive and is able to be helped. And now they got the job of clearing away these bodies. I feel as though the true crime aspect of entertainment, where people, what I mean to say is, when people are entertained by true crime and they're very curious about true crime and they want to know motivations, I feel like ultimately, if those killers, spree killers, serial killers, whomever, are dead, you are deeply unsatisfied. But when you actually speak to them, I think in the same vein, you hear their nonsensical manifestos and their word salad explanations, and you also are left deeply unsatisfied, but now perhaps even more so, because a lot of the times these people don't have understanding of their own motivations, let alone, or if they do, it's gibberish, right? Like they're just, they not to say they're nuts and so to be dismissive, but I'm just saying that, like, the why, I don't even know if it factors in for a lot of these guys. But in this case, Art taking away the ability for anyone to take him down but himself, getting the last laugh, or we think, because after we're introduced to a coroner who is the most coroniest coroner that ever coronered, he may as well have a Walkman and a sandwich. He's that much of a coroner. We are going to get an overt bit of supernatural energy. And if there was any doubt in our mind, this all but confirms it. Flashing lights, weird radio signals, and then all of a sudden, that which was dead has now risen.
We even get the ghost voice of the cat lady coming through the radio. It's great. It's not like the rise of Leslie Vernon where we have to wait for this to happen. We get an immediate raging Art the Clown lunging up from the gurney with a throat hold on the coroner, the best coroner that ever coronered. And he's, yes, raging back from beyond the grave. I do like that the coroner has ordered a sandwich, though, I will point out.
Breakfast sandwich, and then he just keeps saying bacon. It's 2016. Was bacon still comedy in 2016? I don't know. But we are on the credits and we're out of here. This film was dedicated to the memory of Wes Craven, George Romero, and Tobe Hooper. I suppose 3 people who definitely were at that time dead, and also heroes of Damien Leone.
I'd have to say so. There's so much, he wears his influences on his sleeve very, very much with this film. And whether, like, the shorts that came before it sort of do as well, and the character of Art the Clown, while he is his own thing, he does have traits not only from Three Stooges films, but from a lot of our favorite killers. We do see a year later, we see Victoria being wheeled out by her parents from a rehab clinic, and she has the markings. It's very apparent that she's the girl that was on the interview show or whatever at the beginning of the film. So everything has come round to that present day, because her interview is that night on television at the end of the film. And just for that perfect sort of circular storytelling, at the very beginning of the film, when we were in that dressing room that looked almost surreal, almost dreamlike, where it was like a little island in a sea of darkness, and we could tell, or hoping maybe it was on a sound stage. They don't have that kind of money for a sound stage at this point, so it's just artfully blocked with light. There is a poster beside the dressing room mirror that says, "The end is just a new beginning." And I love that bit of storytelling.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. And that is absolutely beautiful. So to heck with all of you that say this movie isn't about anything. That's what this movie is about. We've talked for a while and told you what this movie was all about. But what do we got next for them?
We have the second installment into the Terrifier franchise, which is equally about nothing. I mean, I'm not a Clown Cafe kind of gal, but I am an Art the Clown kind of gal. And there's nothing better than Art the Clown watching his shitty, bloody, ruined outfit in a laundromat. I thought that if pizzeria art was terrifying, laundromat art is even more scary to me.
Much like the Terrifier franchise popularity itself, by the time Damien Leone gets to Terrifier 2, Art the Clown will explode all over the world into a certified pop culture icon. And not only that, but the lore to his own goddamn franchise will just erupt into 50 different directions. So I'm looking forward to discussing that film.
Yeah, I am too. I like it. I often forget there's other storylines other than the Art the Clown one. There's a much more rich storyline. So yeah, I really do like this. This is our Halloween episode now. That will be landing sometime after the All Hallows Eve or All Saints Day. It'll sometime in the beginning of November. We'll be recording it closer to Halloween probably, but either way, happy Halloween. If this is your pick for the first time and you're coming to this before or after just watching it for the first time, congratulations. You are now part of the Borg that is the hype machine behind Terrifier, and I hope you only spread it by recommending this film to somebody else, because it is just a new staple. It is my candy corn.
Welcome to the horror franchise of Terrifier. Bring money. I'm Wes Knipe.
And I'm Typical Lydia.
And you've been listening to the Halloween episode of Dead Air. If you like this show, you can find more episodes and other content on splatterpictures.net, Spotify, or wherever you download podcasts. We also upload all episodes to YouTube now, if you'd prefer to listen that way. You can find us across social media like Instagram, X, and TikTok, and the show is edited by Lydia Peever and hosted by Lydia Peever and me, Wes Knipe. We'll see you next time.